So next, I would like to welcome Bill Sweat, who's the founder and proprietor of Winderlea Vineyard and Winery. And he's representing our northern neighbor, Oregon, another partner in our United for Sustainability efforts. And Bill, I know you could have been on any one of these panels too, and we're so glad that you could be with us today. So I'll turn it over to you to introduce our next session.
Thank you very much, Olson, and thank you very much to all our sponsors and presenters and hosts. This has been a remarkable couple of days. My wife and I own Winderlea Vineyard and Winery in Dundee, Oregon, so I'm especially happy to see so much support from Oregon and especially the Oregon Wine Board. I'm going to dispense with what I had planned for comments for this session, and for reasons that will become apparent shortly. This is a topic on diversity and as a sustainability topic and social justice, and that topic in the wine industry took a giant leap forward on May 25th, 2020. And that's the day that George Floyd was killed by a police officer, Derek Chauvin. It became a real watershed for the social justice movement, and hundreds of thousands of people mobilized, as did the wine industry. Yesterday, a jury in Minnesota delivered 3 guilty verdicts in the Derek Chauvin case. And I won't call it justice, but it feels like a moment of accountability. And I feel that before turning this over, I need to acknowledge that as a 63-year-old white man, well, yesterday felt like a hopeful moment. I need to respectfully acknowledge that it may feel very different. Yesterday may have felt very different if you're a person of color, and especially a Black person. So I want to introduce the 2 panelists who are going to join us today. Julia Coney is a wine journalist and founder of the Black Wine Professionals. And Elaine Chukan Brown is an American specialist for GansisRobin.com and co-founder of the Diversity and Wine Leadership Forum. If you're in the wine industry and involved at all in social justice issues, those 2 names will come up within the first 5 minutes of any conversation you have. So it's my very great honor to respectfully turn this panel over to Elaine.
Bill, thank you so much. It is an incredible honor to be here. Julia and I are both really quite honored to be invited to speak with you today. However, we have made a very difficult decision to change the original plan. You might notice that I'm quite emotional. I encouraged Julia to go ahead and take a break and step away from speaking today. And I want to make clear that this decision that we have made is not easy for either of us. We are both staunch professionals and deeply devoted to our work, speaking on diversity and social justice in the wine industry. And so making this change was hard for both of us, but I believe essential. I have the great pleasure of working with Bill on diversity issues through his work in the diversity committee for the Willamette Valley Winery Association. And I'm very grateful for his work as an advocate, an ally, and an accomplice on these issues there. And so with that in mind, I'm grateful that he was the one to introduce us and understand why it was essential to make this change. Diversity work at its core is about fostering respectful communities and respectful environments with each other, regardless of our backgrounds and regardless of our experiences. At the core of diversity work sits respect. Respect, by its nature, depends on being willing to listen to each other, to slow down and care about the needs of each other. And while yesterday, thankfully, a sense of accountability did occur in the United States, unfortunately, further shootings also occurred yesterday. And the trauma of those 2 things happening in such close succession is unbearable. And that is why we've chosen to take the risk of shifting gears in the talk today. I am here to speak for just a few minutes in order to give context for why making this change is an essential demonstration of what it means to be advocates for each other and to do diversity work. As I said, diversity work at its core is about fostering respect. While it is often pitched as being about race issues or about disability issues or about supporting the LGBTQIA community, truly what diversity work is about is recognizing that we are all humans and that regardless of our differing backgrounds and our differing experiences, respecting our humanity and our human life is the key point. Bringing this into a professional context can be challenging because many of us have been trained and taught that business must come first, our companies must be elevated above all other things, and that we must be professional by avoiding emotional demonstrations or personal demonstrations in a work environment. What I would like to remind us, however, is that every company, every business, every movement forward in climate justice depends on people doing that work. And so in recognizing that diversity and fostering the social components of sustainability work depend on supporting people, what I would like to remind us is that respecting each other's needs is the first and most essential step to our sustainability work, the success of our climate justice work, and the success of our companies and businesses around the world. We must act with respect for each other's needs to do that. Our choosing to change the talk today is a demonstration of what it means to respect each other's needs. Many of us in the United States are suffering very deeply right now because of the persistence and regularity of deaths and violence across the United States. The truth is that these actions are not new. For some of us, it feels as if they're increasing, but in actuality, the difference is that they're being reported more frequently and they're being made more visible. Part of recognizing the need to support each other is also realizing that there are times when we must step away from work to take a break, to take care of ourselves, and that it is from increasing our ability to support each other in doing that self-care that our businesses have a greater ability to succeed, that the initiatives we have for climate justice, as we've been talking about for 3 days now, have a greater ability to succeed. My asking Julia to seriously consider not appearing today is my attempt to be an advocate for her safety and for the safety of my community. I hope that you can see this as a demonstration of what it means to care about diversity work, to care about community building, and to put as the foundation of any of our initiatives, any of our companies and businesses, the support of each other as people, the listening to each other's needs, and the fostering of community building. I'm absolutely certain that if we move these 3 things to the center of all of our business plans, all of our business practices, and our interactions with each other, that we will actually find greater success in our businesses, our companies, and our initiatives, because at the core of community building and justice work for our climate and each other is collaboration. We can only truly collaborate when we respect and listen to each other and provide space for our self-care. Collaboration is the core of caring about diversity and of community building work, and it is essential to all of our next steps in our climate justice and our social justice. These 2 things, climate justice and social justice, are intimately intertwined. And to perform either, we must be willing to listen, to collaborate, and to create change. I thank you for being willing to support the change that Julie and I have made today. We do this out of great and deep respect for the work that Allison and her team have put into bringing this event together. It has been an incredible honor to see the wealth of professional insight and experience shared these last 3 days. The work that everyone here is doing is essential, and I ask that you support those in your community who are suffering right now. They will not only be members of the Black, Indigenous, and people of color community. They will be many people who care deeply about humanity, about each other as humans, about social justice and climate justice, and the recognition that these things all operate together. Thank you for being patient with me today. I'm now going to sign off, but I do so again with great love for this entire group of people working so diligently on these issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaine. Bill, I want to thank you for your thoughtful comments, and Elaine, her support of her colleague, acknowledging this historic moment. And I really appreciate how Elaine and Julia both tirelessly work to help educate and activate the industry about diversity and equity and inclusion. So, well, Bill, I don't know if you would like to maybe just take a moment to talk a little bit about what you're doing in Willamette Valley and some of the initiatives that you're taking on.
Allison, ordinarily I would love to. I will say I'm very proud of the Willamette Valley Wineries Association, especially for having made a very clear and direct statement and following that up with the pledge that wineries can sign, and a pledge that represents the beginning of the work that we need to do, not the culmination of the work we need to do, and working very hard on that. And just grateful that so many wineries have signed that pledge and are willing to do that work. Elaine is one of the outside experts, consultants, leaders that we're working with, and she has been, as she always is, incredibly generous and thoughtful with her time. But I think maybe I'll leave it at that. I think so many in the industry are recognizing the kind of void that this industry has had with regard to representation, and are now actively engaging in doing that work. And I'm very happy to see that work and grateful to see that work. But I think Elaine just articulated everything so beautifully and so emotionally, and as always, there was such great intellect. I think maybe leaving it with her thoughts is maybe the best way to finish.
Great, thank you so much for being here and for your support. And yes, I fully agree that Elaine said it very well. So thank you.
Thank you.
So I think what we'll do as well as a follow-up to this is send out some additional resources on this topic to all of the participants. And I think it'll give us some time to collect our thoughts and what would be most meaningful and helpful to those who really want to make a meaningful difference in this area. So thanks again, Bill.
Thank you, Allison.
And with that, I think I will go ahead and wrap it up, and we'll end a little bit early and give some time for us all to really, I think, reflect on what Elaine said and what's happened in really over the last year or more. And I want to first thank all of our speakers, to Evan Goldstein, who used his talents to lead us through the tasting seminar on the first day, and to the vintners that shared their wines and their stories. We next had Ray Isle, who really gave us some thoughtful remarks about trends and observations, some challenges to us as an industry. I want to thank Mark and honor Zeb and Lindsay for their very provocative ideas about sustainability as a challenger brand and pushing us to innovate in our communications. I want to thank Cliff Omart for moderating an excellent vineyard tour, and to Kelly, Eric, Nikki, and Dick who shared great examples of on-the-ground sustainable practices. I'd like to thank Esther Mobley for bringing her inquisitive mind. I always enjoy her questions to the climate resiliency discussion, and to Julian, Suzanne, Nadine for inspiring us with your calls to action, and to Elaine for having the courage to show up today and for her touching remarks about how we as an industry can do better in terms of social equity, really starting with respect and supporting each other. So we'll be following up with a survey to get your thoughts on the summit. We'll share a recording, responses to questions, some additional resources. And I just want to wrap up with a few thank yous. So if we could pull up our sponsor slide. Thanks again to all of our sponsors. This really made our summit possible. I'm also grateful to my team who worked so hard to make this fun, informative, and flawless, really. I especially want to thank Lisa Frantoni-High, who is our program director. We've worked together for 16 years to build CSWA and our programs. And Lisa is whip smart. She gracefully juggles a million balls in the air, and she's an absolute pleasure to work with. I want to thank Thane Cockram, our project manager. She's a jack of all trades. Anyone who knows her knows that she knows a little bit about everything, and she's always willing to pitch in to get everything done and really anything for the cause. And Susanna Mannion, who was responsible for creating some of the things that you've seen in terms of our materials, our brochure, our website, and you can go to sustainablewinegrowing.us. She was hired a year ago during the pandemic via Zoom, so I can't wait to see her in person to give her a big hug for all that she's done. And I want to thank all of our partner organizations for their input, their energy, and their willingness to make this summit a success. So thank you so much. On behalf of all of us, all of the organizations, I want to thank all of you for attending. And we hope that this is the second of many U.S. Sustainable Wine Growing Summits to come. And we look forward to working together. Thank you.